Kinds of Kindness is the new film from director Yorgos Lanthimos, and it just got released, and I rushed out Saturday night, sat in the very front row, and I mean literally the front row. I mean, if I sneezed, you would see snot all over that damn thing. I was so damn close to that screen, and, you know, after a few days I've had to process this movie. What do I think of the movie? Well, this movie is weird, it's wild, it's hilarious, it's frustrating, it's disturbing, and I absolutely loved every fucking second of it. Man, discovering what this movie actually was actually a pretty cool experience. Like, I had no idea what this movie was about, and, you know, what this movie is, if you didn't know, is it's actually an anthology movie. It's 3 short films, and they all have the same actors. You know, there's not revolving actors for each story. You know, Jesse Plemons and Emma Stone, William Dafoe, all 3 of these actors play different characters in each of these short films, and I thought they were wonderful. I thought it was like, oh man, this is what this movie is. Like, that's really cool. Like, how often do we get to see, you know, anthology films, especially from the mind of this man Yorgos? I mean, woo, these 3 films are interesting to say the least. So I'm going to break these 3 stories down. I think that's probably the best way to kind of, you know, talk about this movie, is talk about, you know, the each 3 sections by themselves. But before I do, I just want to say a blanket statement here that Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons are like on fucking god tier mode in this movie. God tier. They are phenomenal. I mean, Emma Stone was already incredible in Poor Things, and she absolutely deserved her Oscar. But Jesse Plemons, for me, man, this is his movie. This is Jesse Plemons' movie. As good as Emma Stone is in this movie, and she is phenomenal, Jesse Plemons just knocks it out of the park. He hit that fucking ball out of the stadium and to another galaxy. That's how good this performance is. So I just want to say out the gate, you know, I say this a lot in movies with great performances, but, you know, I really mean it. Not that I don't mean it in other reviews, but I mean, this movie is worth seeing alone for Jesse Plemons and Emma Stone, but specifically Jesse Plemons, because my God. All right, so let's talk about the first story of the film here, and I believe it was called The Death of RMF or The Murder of RMF. I can't remember if it's death or murder. I apologize. I saw this Saturday night. It is now Tuesday, so there's, you know, a little bit of a distance here in my memory, but it's in the ballpark. It's something to do with the death of RMF. You know, if it's not the exact words, I'm sorry. But no, you know, a loose plot here is that Jesse Plemons plays this guy who has a boss who dictates his whole life, and one day he asks Jesse Plemons to ram his car into another car at a specific intersection at a specific time, and he does it, and then William Dafoe comes back and says, will you do it again? Jesse Plemons refuses, and needless to say, things start to unravel. And yeah, you can tell early on, just from the first like 20 minutes of this movie, that this is Jesse Plemons' movie. His performance in this first segment, The Death of RMF, is absolutely incredible. It is so good. He hooks you in from the get-go. You feel for this guy. You understand where he's coming from. You I don't know, you kind of feel bad for him. He plays a character that like doesn't really stick up for himself, doesn't really have a backbone, just kind of does whatever his boss tells him. And then the moment he does, we're like, okay, cool, yeah, you're finally sticking up for yourself. You know, congratulations, welcome to the club. And the fact that it doesn't go well takes a dark turn and gets really weird. This is also really funny. There's a bit with a tennis racket that's pretty good. I won't spoil what that is, but this whole front section is a great way to start the movie, and phenomenal. And I think the themes I guess I'll try and talk about the themes through each segment here. But I feel like, I mean, the movie's called Kinds of Kindness. I feel like this movie is trying to tackle this idea of, you know, letting someone walk all over you and being too kind and not like sticking up for yourself, not saying no, and then, you know, how life can be sometimes when you tell yourself like, oh, I'm going to tell this person no, I'm going to stick up for myself, but then the moment you do that, there's actually kind of consequences for that, good or bad consequences, and this story kind of digs into that a little bit. I think the idea is that like, okay, yeah, you're somebody who doesn't stick up for yourself, doesn't have a backbone, and then you do, and then your life starts to kind of unravel a little bit, and you're dealing with those consequences of finally sticking up for yourself, and that you can't handle that decision, and so you lean back to where you were before, which is that you go back to not having a backbone and doing what people say. And I found it to be a pretty effective movie. And and Yorgos' faction, it gets really weird towards the end and violent. But yeah, great way to start the movie. Thumbs up to this first segment. And the second segment is called, I believe it's RMF Goes Flying or something along those lines. And this one is really fascinating. I think this is the one that's probably going to frustrate people the most, but I found it to be very interesting. And it's kind of a plot line that we've seen many times before, but through Yorgos's weird, wacky lens, it feels kind of fresh to me. A police officer's wife goes out. I think she's like a wilderness person, wildlife person, and her helicopter crashes and she gets lost in the forest, and no one's able to find her. And he's kind of grieving the fact that he's lost his wife. Not necessarily that she's dead, but she just hasn't been found. And then one day she comes back, they find her, and he starts to notice things are off about her. Some of the things that she didn't do or didn't like before the crash, she starts to embellish, and he's like, something's not right with this woman. This woman's not my wife. It's kind of one of those things, like, this is not my wife. I don't know who this is, an imposter or someone like that. And then it just gets really weird real quick. I'm not going to spoil what happens and how it's weird, but let's just say it involves organs and body parts. And again, this is another, I'm going to keep saying this and beat it over your head. It's another, showcase of how great Jesse Plemons is and how great Emma Stone is. And this one, I'm not going to spoil how it actually ends, like the last, frame of this piece here, but it's hard for me, like, this is one of those endings where you can either take it at face value and what is happening on screen is actually happening, or you can read it as like, a dreamlike thing, surrealism. It could be either or. I tend to lean towards the kind of surreal, this isn't really happening, there's got to be an answer for this. I don't know if I necessarily have the answer, but I thought it was an interesting way to end the piece, and it doesn't give you a definitive answer of whether or not this woman is this man's wife or not. You kind of have to piece it together. I haven't quite pieced it together myself. Okay, you know what? I'll throw something out at you. I think that woman was his wife, in my opinion. I think that was his wife, which kind of makes it all the more tragic and where it ends. But I could be wrong. Let me know your theories, please, if you've seen this movie and you've made it this far in this video. And please let me know what your opinion is and how you kind of took that ending, whether or not she was his wife or not. Okay, and then the last segment is, I believe it's RMF Eats a Sandwich. And again, this one's pretty wacky. So it's about a cult in the middle of the woods, and Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons are on a quest to go find a special being out in the world that can bring people back to life, because their cult believes that there's some special human, the one out there, that can bring someone back to life. So they kind of just go on a quest and trying to find this person. There are people out there that claim to be that person, and it turns out they're liars, so they keep hunting and searching, and then finally Emma Stone's character may have found that one person, and I'm going to leave it there at that. And yeah, this one was, I don't know, it may have been my least favorite, but plot-wise, the most interesting. I know that's kind of a contradiction in a way, but not that it was bad. It's just, this movie is 3 hours long, and so it's starting to feel the length a little bit towards the end. And so it's kind of like, all right, let's wrap this up. Yeah, it goes to some pretty dark places that I wasn't expecting. It could make some people uncomfortable out there. There is I guess I'll spoil it here. There is a rape scene, and not like a gratuitous one. We're not talking about irreversible here. Could make some people uncomfortable, so I just want to throw that out there. But yeah, I will admit, I think this one kind of meanders a bit compared to the other two. I feel like the pacing of the other two was a little better. But again, it could just be the fact that this is 3 hours long, and this just happens to be the last one. If this maybe opened the film, maybe I would have felt differently. Whatever the arrangement of these three, whatever was last, maybe I would have said the same thing. But no, it was still good. I just don't think it was as strong but the ending is great. The ending is phenomenal. You get that, I guess it's kind of famous now, but from the trailer when Emma Stone's doing her little Her little dance. That's the ending. That's how that's how the movie ends. As that dance, and it's clever. It's hilarious. Everyone's laughing. It's good stuff. But no, it was great. But I think the overarching theme of this movie, what kind of connects them all together thematically, is, at least what I took out of it, is like sense of control and how we lose control, both, like losing control of yourself, but also losing control of your life, giving your life away. All three of these shorts all have to deal with control. Whether it's the first movie with this guy who's losing control of his life because he stood up for himself. The second movie, losing control of your loved one because you're trying to prove yourself. And then the third movie is losing control, the cult kind of banishes you and you're losing control of your identity. You've left your family behind to be in a cult. It all has to do with control and how we kind of navigate that in life. But in the end, this is a 3-hour long, 3 short stories that are, as a whole, I loved it. I really did. This is one of my favorite movies of the year. If you're not a Yorgos fan, I don't know if this is gonna win you over. But if you love movies like The Lobster or The Favorite or Killing of the Sacred Deer, I think you'll be right at home here. Again, it is a little lengthy. I'm just throwing it out there, but I think the length is worth the wait. I think that this even though this isn't a journey movie, I felt like by the time the lights went up at the end, I felt like I went through something. I feel like I just experienced something, and I feel like you don't get that very often in movies. And I think this is one of those special movies that when the movie's over, you're like, holy, you have to like sit back in your chair and like, I need to process this, because it is it's some heavy stuff. It's funny, and it's a lot to take in. But it's again, you experienced something, and I think that's the biggest compliment I can give this movie. So, have you seen Kinds of Kindness yet? Am I selling you on it? Let me know in the comments below. Give me some of your theories too. This is one of those movies that I love to talk about. I love to post my review on, because I get much smarter people than me in my comments that can kind of like, have discussions about what this meant, what that meant. It's one of my favorite things. So if you have seen this movie and there's something I didn't talk about or something you interpreted differently, please let me know in the comments. I would love to chit chat with you. Other than that, I will see you on the next one.